Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. I'm Milton Walker. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. A reminder as well that you can download our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the words Spot and Media. The number of reported murders in Jamaica since the start of the year has hit the 100 mark. Data from the Jamaica Constabulary Force cover the period January 1 to 20, a breakdown of the data revealed that 13 more persons were murdered when compared to the corresponding period in 2017. The St. Catherine North and Clarendon Police Division each recorded 13 murders. 9 were reported in St. Andrew Southern Division. And while the police continue to grapple with an increase in killings, there has been a reduction in other major crimes. Reported cases of aggravated assault declined by 51%, while break-ins were down 50%. Data for the January 1 to January 20 period show that fewer rape cases were reported, a 60% decline. The number of reported robberies also fell by 16%. Residents in St. James are up in arms over the detention of their relatives by members of the security forces during the state of emergency. According to some of the residents, they have not been able to bring food for their relatives, some of whom have been detained since Saturday.
My son went to one funeral up at Glendevan area. Something happened up there and then pick him up, have him down here from like yesterday till now. At 2:30 I left right there, so out here so then put him to sit down, then close that big gate and so we must go our yard because nobody who around there so now come out. We come back today, so we come back 12 o'clock because one big man want to talk to them. When we come, the big man not there here and now then lock we out today out here so in a sun and so out here so we fist there. And then if we get no food around there.
A ball going coming from, and go play football and they come home. And then walking on the street and then soldier then go pick him up. Them things are not right, boss.
Meanwhile, the Legal Aid Council is providing legal representation for persons who have been detained under the state of emergency in St. James. The Legal Aid Council, in collaboration with the Cornwall Bar Association, has made available 19 counsels, including 6 senior lawyers, to provide representation for the detainees. Residents of St. James who have been detained may contact the Montego Bay Legal Aid Clinic at 42B Union Street or contact them at 952-2183, or they may call the Cornwall Bar Association 940-1960. The St. James residents may also visit the Instagram and Facebook pages of the Cornwall Bar Association for a list of the lawyers who have been rostered. One man has been detained and a firearm seized following the shooting death of an unidentified man on Henderson Avenue, Kingston, on Saturday. The Olympic Gardens police say about 7:45 p.m. explosions were heard coming from a motor vehicle that was traveling along Henderson Avenue. The vehicle crashed into a utility pole, and shortly after, a man was seen exiting the vehicle with his firearm in his hand. The man who was injured attempted to flee the scene when he was approached by a police officer. He was held and a Browning pistol with a magazine containing 2 rounds of ammunition was taken from him. The police also discovered another injured male in the car. Both were taken to hospital where the unidentified male was pronounced dead and the other admitted under police guard. Every child needs to be in school in order to reduce crime. That's the view of social anthropologist Dr. Herbert Gale, who was speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica on Monday. He added that one of the main problems in the school system is getting students to attend school. Dr. Gale said the government has to equip single-parent families to keep their children in school. He added that the government providing lunch for them on a daily basis is not enough.
You can't just give them some lunch at school and they come for the lunch. In fact, some go in time for the lunch and then go home. We have to have a program that is very systematic, that makes sure that every single child in school. Once you lock that down, you are also reducing 2 things you're doing. You're reducing the numbers of persons, gangs, and organized criminals can recruit. B, if they do recruit, they're recruiting a better human being.
He noted that if a child is in school, he or she will be safer, adding that if a child is out of school, it's more likely they will become criminals or targets of criminal elements. In the meantime, he's encouraging the Education Ministry to close the educational gap between boys and girls.
It don't matter how we get into the spirit, you know. This country is not going to go anywhere until we close the gap. If you try to send a boy to school from GSAT and the girl has massive top schools to go to. The boys have a shrinking few. Yes, and we all know them. There are 7 of them.
Meanwhile, Dr. Gale said that in every audit he has done so far, the business community has failed the society. Dr. Gale said the private sector is afraid of youths in the inner city communities and should seek to build relationships with them.
If you take all the institutions that are supposed to be carrying a society forward, right, the corporate citizens have not done well in every area that has high violence. There is no apprenticeship. There's no structured mentorship. When we interview young people and we ask, how many of you have received help from a business person in your community? It's usually below 12%.
He said that businesses that refuse to hire qualified individuals because of their address contribute to the crime problem.
Who gets 7, 8 CXCs and he goes to 10 interviews and nobody takes him on because he have a bad address. That sends a message to the neighbor that says that path don't make any sense. So that have a nerd. Yeah. Bad man will do them things there. Bad man will go suffer like dog and will get through.
Dr. Gale was speaking on TVJ Smile Jamaica this morning. A joyous occasion with friends ended in tragedy after a teenager disappeared and is feared drowned. The teen has been identified as 18-year-old Nicoy Murray of Woodstock Housing Scheme in Buff Bay, Portland. TVJ News has learned that on Sunday evening, Nicoy and his friends went river tubing in the Buff Bay River to enjoy themselves. According to the Buff Bay Police, he lost control of the raft, careening down the river and disappeared into the rough seas at the mouth of the river. His friends desperately tried to save him, but their efforts were not successful because they couldn't swim. The Marine Police were alerted and a search carried out with no success. His aunt told our news team they are hoping Nicoy's body will be found.
We only can stand and look and see what happened. Anyway, we decided to get some divers, so we get some divers. So early in the morning, they are going to dive for the body.
So are you hoping?
I don't know. I just feel weak inside and I feel sore. I can hardly manage, but I have to keep strong. For the father, I have to get to stand with the mother.
Up to 10 o'clock this morning, there was no sign of the missing teenager. Jamaica's tourism is receiving negative publicity in Canada following the declaration of the state of emergency in St. James last week. City News in Toronto yesterday aired a report of a woman and her family who faced problems trying to cancel their winter vacation into Montego Bay. The family has decided to go to Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic in the wake of the state of emergency and the Canadian government issuing a travel advisory.
And Vaughan, where one woman was looking forward to a winter vacation in Montego Bay, Jamaica. Now, that vacation was thrown into question after the country was declared a state of emergency. The Canadian government's even issued a travel advisory. Now, when the government issues warnings, it's up to airlines to help their passengers rethink their plans, but that experience didn't go so smoothly for Crystal Kamande and her family, who booked with Air Canada Vacations.
A vacation we've been looking forward to since July became a total nightmare.
A nightmare, all because of the rise in violence in St. James Parish, which includes the tourist hotspot Montego Bay.
So, me being a parent, traveling with 2 small children, a group of us traveling with about 5 or 6 small children, we didn't want to travel to Montego Bay. We reached out to Air Canada Vacations, who shut us down, telling us it's business as usual. You can travel to Montego Bay or you can lose your whole package for $5,700.
Crystal says she spent hours on the phone, and despite having travel insurance, she couldn't negotiate with the airline. 3 other families who were traveling with them through WestJet were able to get a full credit for their trip without a problem.
We weren't asking for our money. We wanted a credit just to go to a safer destination. So how can one airline and another airline treat their passengers so different? It's not fair.
We reached out to Air Canada. In an email, they say they implemented a policy yesterday for customers who no longer wish to go to Montego Bay. They tell travelers, if you're scheduled to travel between January 19 and January 31st, you may contact Air Canada Reservations to change your flight free of charge to another date between now and February 14th.
subject to availability in the cabin you originally purchased. Otherwise, any fare difference will apply. One passenger advocate says that response isn't ideal.
What Air Canada has done so falls short of what I would consider reasonable in the circumstances, but I cannot say with a good conscience that there is a clear rule that they are breaking.
And I've just had word here from the Associated Press, which says Democrats aligning, that's Democrats in the U.S. Senate, aligning behind a plan to temporarily fund the government and end the shutdown, predict it will pass in the Senate. So there seems to be some likely movement there. In sports, organizers of the 11th annual Charity Medglow tournament is expecting another record-breaking tournament to be held this Saturday at Cinnamon Hill course. They're seeking to raise over $2 million to purchase equipment for the Department of Surgery and Anesthesia at the University Hospital of the West Indies.
Last year's 10th staging of the two-day Pro-Am tournament held at the Cinnamon Hill course, with the early registration for this year's event showing over 15 professionals and 54 amateurs. Things are looking bright for a record number of entries, according to Chairman of the Caribbean Association of Neurosurgeons, CANS, Dr. Carl Bruce, who says most of the golfers understand the need for this tournament.
And we're very proud of the growth that the tournament has seen over the last few years, over 900,000 in 2016, 1.3 million last year. And this year we are trying to get to a target of 1.5 million in conjunction with our sponsors.
Meanwhile, the annual three-day neurological seminar, which starts on Friday, January 26th at the Montego Bay Conference Center, will be moving into a broader debate on concussion following a recent documentary with former England international striker Alan Shearer, which showed that consistent head injuries affect players later in life.
We're taking it one step further this year, and what we're talking about now are the long-term implications of multiple concussion, the so-called chronic traumatic encephalopathy, when athletes who have received many concussions start having abnormal behavior and headaches and suicidal tendencies. We need to understand more about this. And it's been called chronic traumatic encephalopathy. We need to know how to diagnose it and when to treat it.
Dr. Bruce is calling on all doctors for sporting teams and referees to attend the seminar,
so that the information can get down to not only the doctors, but the physiotherapists, the trainers, the coaches. We want everyone involved to understand this. Many times, they are the ones who are on the scene at the games. And so we want to have them to have an understanding of why it's important not to have players on the field who have had a concussion, because not only are those players more vulnerable to having severe brain injury, but the long-term implications now that we're exploring are very, very significant.
Dr. Bruce says over the years there has been an increase in the number of footballers from the schoolboy competitions to the Premier League that have been treated for concussions in recent times. Spencer Darlington, TVJ Sports.
And just to remind viewers that the Legal Aid Council in St. James, in association with the Cornwall Bar Association, is made 19 lawyers available, including 6 senior ones, for persons who have been detained under the state of emergency. They may contact the St. James Legal Aid Clinic or the Montego Bay Legal Aid Clinic at 42B Union Street, that's in Montego Bay, St. James, or call 952-2183. They may also contact the Cornwall Bar Association through its Instagram or Facebook pages. And that's the Midday News. I'm Milton Walker. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.